Oh, you can.
Yeah.
So.
All right, y'all. How are you feeling?
Good.
Good. Okay, so today you guys are app and you guys are Ned.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right, so the way that we're going to get started is we're going to go ahead and start with app, and then we're going to go to neg. But I'll keep you guys posted on what time you guys are at and all that good stuff along the way. All right. So the topic today is when in conflict, environmental protection should be valued as more significant than economic growth. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the affirmative constructive speakers. So you are good to go whenever you're ready. And if you could give me your name and your section before you go.
Okay.
Or just tell me what time you're at and I can figure out your section.
Okay. Cassia.
You're 201.
Okay.
12:30 on Tuesday.
Do you want me to stand?
Standing's usually best. But so you're 201, and what was your first and last name?
Stephanie Hernandez.
Stephanie Hernandez. Perfect. Would you guys feel more comfortable if you told me your name beforehand so you don't have to, you can just get right into your speech? Okay, so let's, how about, okay, so you're in 201 as well. And what's your first and last name?
Jacqueline McAvoy.
And you're the second speaker?
I am the third speaker.
You're the third, okay.
Michael McLean.
And your second?
Yes.
And then who's doing fourth for you guys as well? Stephanie? Alright, perfect. And then over on this side, y'all are Morgans?
Yes.
So you're 203. Okay.
2.
And then who is constructive on this
I
side?
am.
Okay.
Zach Castillo.
Castillo, you said?
It's with an H.
My first name.
I was like, where does an H go in Castillo? Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Okay. Who is second?
I am. Natalie Rachel.
Natalie Rachel. Good.
Sean Carmen.
Sean Carmen. All right. And four?
Heath Jordan.
Heath Jordan. Alrighty, perfect. So the way it's gonna work is basically we're gonna cut you guys off once you reach your time limit, or if you do not reach it, we'll let you know what you get to. So Stephanie, if you want to go ahead and get us started.
Okay, so we affirm when in conflict, environmental protection should be valued as more significant than economic growth. The reason being is the economy will always fluctuate, whether it has to do with the environment or not. But damage done to the environment is irreversible. The damage done to the environment that affects people's health will be irreversible. The deaths that follow natural disasters that are more violent than we have previously experienced due to climate change will forever haunt the families left in grief. According to NASA, climate change is defined as a broad range of global phenomena created predominantly by burning fossil fuels, which add heat-trapping gases to Earth's atmosphere. These phenomena include the increased temperature trends described by global warming, but also encompass changes such as sea level rise, ice mass loss in Greenland, Antarctica, the Arctic, and mountain glaciers worldwide, and extreme weather events. New analysis done by the Natural Resources Defense Council states that although natural disasters are not a direct result of climate change, hence the term natural, climate change is making the conditions to these disasters more severe than ever. Heat waves are becoming more frequent and dangerous, and wildfires are getting out of control. Cameron Wall is an atmospheric scientist at MIT who studies hurricanes. He says thermal potential is a thermodynamic speed limit on hurricanes. The greater the speed limit, the more favorable conditions are for hurricanes to form and the more powerful they can get. According to the 2014 climate assessment produced by the U.S. government, global analysis show that the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere has in fact increased due to human-caused warming. This extra moisture is available to storm systems, resulting in heavier rainfall. The latest climate assessment produced by the U.S. government found that climate change will cost the U.S. hundreds of billions of dollars annually. More snow and rainfall will affect consumer activity. According to Panalytics, the global leader in business weather intelligence, the entire economy shrunk by 2.1% in the first quarter of 2014 due to severe snowstorms across the country. And the snowstorm that hit the Northeast last January of 2018 eliminated $500 million in sales. Restaurants, retails, and supply chains take a hit from loss of sales due to unexpected severe weather. Climate change also causes the construction industry to lose billions of dollars in delays, failures, and damaged infrastructure. Labor productivity is also affected when construction workers are exposed to airborne contaminants, including contaminated particulate matter and volatile compounds spreading by wind. The EPA defines particulate matter as a mixture of solid particles and liquid droplets found in the air. This is what causes air pollution and damages our health by causing premature death in people with pre-existing heart or lung disease, non-fatal heart attacks, aggravated asthma, increased lung functions, cancer, and even birth defects. In 2007, the National Center for Biotechnology Information did a study to determine the impact of asthma and air pollution on school attendance of primary school children ages 6 to 12. The results show that out of the 31,400 students at the Carter School, 3,270 of them were diagnosed with asthma and wheezing. Overall, 2,516 students were absent from school for at least one day during the year. They concluded that children with known asthma miss more school days than those that do not have asthma. Whether it is one child or 2,516 of them, no child should have to miss school because of the air quality that day. It's affecting them so much to the point that they have to miss out on their education. Decline in a person's health also affects their inability to work. Although no one is immune to climate change, there are people who are more vulnerable to facing health risks associated with it. People with pre-existing conditions and those living in lower income and marginalized communities have a lower capacity to prepare for and cope with extreme weather events and climate-related problems such as air and water pollution. Increasing temperature will also result in more common exposure to waterborne and foodborne diseases affecting food and water safety. With people developing health issues that stop them from working as much or altogether, these vulnerable populations are unable to contribute to a more equitable future. Investing in renewable energy will help protect our environment and the population's health overall, so children are able to miss less days of school and adults can take less days off work.
Yes.
Thank you. So now we're going to move to our constructive speaker on the negative.
Ready to go? Okay.
For you.
Today, my group and I are here to argue the negative side of the proposition. We believe that environmental protection and economic growth should go hand in hand and should never be in contention. To put it simply, we can't have a healthy environment without a strong economy, and we can't have a strong economy without a healthy environment. These two ideals should work together instead of undermining each other. That way we can all live in a successful and clean locale. We believe this for the following reasons. One, in the last couple of years, we have seen rapid growth in technology and sectors all across the world that have allowed for the cleaner and safer removal, refinement, and use of resources from the earth. Second, Saving the environment is not worth the cost of our economy. If we damage our economy so horribly, it's irreversible and we cannot bounce back from it. 3, we believe there are already ways available to us that we can use to help save the environment and boost the economy. It just takes a change in some things that we've already started to do. First of all, let's talk about technology. In the last 10 years at least, we've seen leaps and bounds change in the fields of technology, especially when it comes to fossil fuels and other things like that. In just the last 10 years, according to an article by AspenTech entitled Technology Innovation Creates New Opportunities in Oil and Gas, we see that since 1985, technology has not only been able to make sure we have reduced our drilling waste by 148 million barrels a year, but we've doubled production per well. Meaning in 1985, we've taken 2 wells to produce what 1 well does now. This means we're able to lessen our impact and still support and produce the same amount that we need to sustain our economy. Now, this is only in the last 10 to 20, or this is 85, that'd be what? 45 years? That's only the last 45 years. Let's talk about the future. We know that it'll advance, and technology has been advancing constantly, continuously for years. If we've been able to make that kind of change in 45 years, imagine what kind of change we'll be able to make in the future. Second, let's talk about how focusing on environmental protection will hurt and harm the US economy. First of all, let's talk about where we are right now. It's no secret we're struggling. We're currently $22 trillion in debt, and that number literally grows by the billions a day. You can Google it, you can watch it, it's insane. Not only that, but our economy is shrinking. China, India are both growing at rapid rates, and their GDP are set to both overtake the US's within the next 20 to 50 years. It's insane. We cannot sacrifice any more environmental and economic growth in order to save the environment. If we are going to help save the environment, we must ensure we have a strong economy to back that up. According to a document prepared in Europe by the Regional Environmental Center of Central and Eastern Europe, entitled Investing in Environment as a Way to Stimulate Economic Growth and Employment, we see that investing in environmental protection helps create jobs and helps in turn protect the economy, or protect the environment. This means that these should never ever be in contention. We can grow our economy at the same time while we can protect and save the environment as well. We can create jobs in sustainable energy in protecting our ecosystems when it comes to things like national parks and habitats all over the world. Along with that, we can also create new jobs in technology advancement. You know, things like cleaner fuel sources, better ways to refine. It goes back to our technology argument, saying that if we can invest in technology and stuff like that, we can create new jobs, which in turn helps the environment. Finally, I'd like to talk about ways we can already fix the issue that we already have available to us. It is current popular belief that organic farming is the way to go if you would like to eat healthy and help save the environment. However, that's not inherently true. Research has shown that when compared to traditional crops, organic crops yield 25% less per acre. Meaning if I want to produce an equal amount of organic food, I have to use 25% more land. How is that environmental protection? We can use that 25% land to keep, vital ecosystems and habitats alive. We can turn that 25% land into things like wind farms and solar farms. Clearly, already it's not looking good. Not only that, but organic food has no difference in pesticides compared to traditional food, as opposed to the FDA. Both sides fit underneath the FDA regulations by enormous amounts, especially when they come from the US. Not only that, but organic food has no accurate or no visible health benefits to you at all. It's just like eating traditional food, just costs more. However, there is a solution to this that not only will help protect the environment, but helps grow our economy as well. GMOs are a very readily available product. We already use them today. You've probably already eaten a GMO within the last week, if not within the last 24 hours. GMOs not only are truly healthier for you, but truly reduce the amount of pesticides that are used and reduce the footprint of farmers all over the world. Not only that, we've already seen GMOs in action all over the world as they help protect and save species of plants. In Hawaii, damn, works for me.
Okay, great job. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the crossfire. So the way that this crossfire works, I know you guys know, anyone can talk. It doesn't have to just be the first speaker, but you guys have 3 minutes for this. So you guys can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
You can send actually. You're taller.
Do we have to ask a question or can it be a statement?
You shouldn't just talk at them. There should be something that you can start. These 3 minutes go by quickly, so.
We'd like to talk about something. I have a question. So, you guys said that in your argument that so-and-so amount of kids missed school. Can you show me data that says that that was for sure about air pollution? It could have been any other things. Maybe there was a sickness outbreak in the school, or maybe something going on in the population in that time. Can you show me that it's definitively based on air pollution?
I can show you the article. I don't know where it is. But you said, so according to the,
You found it, yeah. Sounds like we need more GMOs.
Yeah, any questions? Yeah.
While you're searching over there, I'm sorry, I have another question. You guys were talking about climate change, and climate change all over the world. Although we are not in charge of entirely all over the world, you guys never specified in Denton, Texas, U.S., realms that we can actually work with. We can't control everyone else, we're not the world police. Is there some way that you can tell us that the U.S. or a certain area can work on your problems? Climate change as a whole.
well, the climate change that I was referring to does, I am talking about the U.S., because I'm talking about the fact that it's going to change our economy. So, the effects of climate change affecting the economy, I'm clearly talking about ours and not the rest of the world.
I just want to also back on point. You guys, your one contention was the climate change piece, right? Like the one overarching argument was the climate change piece.
And the health effects of climate change?
Yeah.
And how
So
that
climate
affects,
change.
and how that affects.
Well, yeah, a lot of this does lead back to climate change, but it's ultimately about the effects of producing fossil fuels and emitting CO2 into the atmosphere, which causes climate change and also causes other things like air pollution and water pollution.
Probably 10 seconds.
You're up.
All right, guys, good job. So now we're going to be moving into the rebuttal portion of the evening. So let's go ahead and get started with the affirmative rebuttal, and you can go ahead whenever you're ready. Just get started.
So I wish to rebut your main argument, which was that we cannot protect the environment because it would sacrifice the economy, or we cannot protect the environment to the extent that it sacrifices economic growth. And I just wanted to point out that you claim that environmental protection would cause consequences and harm to the economy, but the thing you're not thinking about, you failed to mention, is the fact that not addressing climate change will also have serious economic impacts, arguably a lot worse than the economic impacts of addressing it. All right, because the economy has always fluctuated regardless of the state of the environment. All right, but damage to the environment is irreversible. All right, we can always, when the economy has ups and downs, we can always return it to full form. But the environment, once it's destroyed, cannot be replaced. All right, and climate change is already causing natural disasters to be more common and to be more extreme. More powerful, and that's already causing serious economic harms. By causing factories to temporarily shutter, and by causing businesses to close during the days and weeks of natural disasters occurring, and losing hundreds of millions of dollars in GDP, in sales, and in revenue that are being produced. And also, on top of that, not only are natural disasters getting worse, all right, but sea levels are rising, and if we don't address this, then by 2050, lots of major coastal cities and lots of areas of low elevation are going to be underwater. All right, cities like New York, Boston, Miami, Houston, New Orleans. According to the New York Times, if we don't address climate change, then those coastal cities will be partially or completely underwater by 2050. And those are cities that are major economic engines to America. They produce much of our GDP, and so if we allow them to fall victim to rising sea levels, then our economy will suffer greatly. We'll lose billions of dollars in GDP. And according to the Washington Post, Hurricane Harvey was the third 1 in 500 storm in Houston over the past 5 years. All right, 1 in 500 storms are storms that under previous climate models were only expected to happen once every 500 years. But from 2012 to 2017, over just a 5-year period, Houston already experienced 3 of those in just 5 years. So these once in 500 year storms are becoming almost a yearly occurrence thanks to climate change. And on top of that, according to the World Meteorological Organization, the official weather agency of the United Nations, 62 million people were affected by extreme weather events worldwide in 2018. And these extreme weather events are made worse and made more powerful and more frequent by climate change. And also, more on the economic angle, climate change is going to cause droughts to become significantly more frequent and more powerful, and it's going to make droughts happen longer and more frequently, and that's going to do serious harm to agriculture by making it to where crops will not be able to grow as easily, and it's going to harm the Midwest, which is the breadbasket of America in terms of agriculture. It's going to make crops harder to grow, and it's going to significantly hurt the agriculture industry, and it's also going to hurt the tourism industry by rising sea levels in coastal cities and natural disasters that will make it, to where if those cities are underwater, then they're going to be losing lots of tourism dollars, and the fishing industry will also be negatively impacted by climate change and by just environmental degradation. And utilitarianism is the philosophy that doing the most good for the most people. And that, or the utilitarian way, it would be to solve climate change, and so that we can protect millions of people who live in coastal cities and who live in places that would be affected by droughts and other climate events from the impacts of climate change. Now, even though that would mean having to move people out of jobs in industries like coal that are emitting the most CO2 into the atmosphere, those people can be retrained for other jobs in other industries.
Climate change and energy are both areas that are linked to several environmental sectors that have an effect on our world. But I also want to go ahead and say that, one, we don't control the weather, and so, yes, Hurricane Harvey, all these big, traumatic types of weather that happened, and yes, it did, cause problems in people's lives, did break down houses, but we couldn't control that. But we now can go forward and decide what can we do to stop progressing the climate change and what can we do to reduce it, because we're already there. Like you said earlier, you can't, once damages are made in the environment, you can't go back and fix it, but that's the same way that the economy is as well. I want to take a close look at technology and looking back at starting in 1850. That is when the first drilling rig was used and that was built, and the technique that was used was repeatedly slamming a cable tool into the ground, which obviously, if you were slamming something into the ground, yes, it can cause problems, and it probably was not the best way to go about it. So in the 1900s to the 1950s, In 1901, the oil boom in Beaumont, Texas, which was a steam-powered rig that used rotary drill bits and water-based drilling mud, caused a blowout which sent oil 100 feet into the air. 1 year later, 1,500 companies were created because of the oil boom in Beaumont. In 1924, the first blowout preventer was invented. In 1950 to the 2000s, the mechanical power drilling rigs were invented. In 1970, on-site generators to power different components of the rig were invented. And looking at the 2000s to today, in 2006, horizontal pad drilling led to greater efficiency using one rig to do the job many rigs were doing, which, if you look at the bigger picture, it's just lessening the environmental impact that the drilling is doing. This improved further when the hydraulic legs were added. This caused rigs now could walk or skid across a pad, which led to greater efficiency as rigs no longer had to tear down instead of each time a rig moved. Starting from wooden rigs using steam engines to our walking rigs being able to drill in many directions underground, we have come a long way in improving drilling efficiency and safety while decreasing the impact on the environment. So obviously, starting in 1850, we didn't have the most ideal type of equipment that we have now, but we're still making those improvements. But to make those improvements and to continue on the track that we're on, you have to focus on the economy. But we're not saying that the economy outweighs the environment, but we're addressing the environment and the economy by focusing on the economy, and those benefits lead into helping out the environment. Some major technology innovations that have happened over the past couple of years is one is the 3D and 4D seismic imaging equipment, which is a tool that bounces sound waves off underground rock structures to reveal possible crude oil and natural gas bearing formations. This benefits us because it's been around for about 80 years. Because of ongoing technology developments, it has made geologists' effort to find oil and natural gas beneath the surface more precise and effective. You also get from the software an image that continues to improve and become more advanced with computers that now enable scientists to examine data in days instead of months, which is a faster discovery and ultimate production of oil and gas. It also placed wells more effectively, reduced the number of dry holes drilled, reduced drilling costs, and cut exploration time. It also helps well site teams optimize drilling before it starts. Scientists estimate that 85% of well problems can be traced back to poor subsurface modeling and associated well planning. And also, a precise seismic image and model can ensure major savings during each phase of operation. So, everything that we're wanting to continue doing by focusing on the economy in the long run is benefiting the environment. But if we don't focus on the economy and give up and put all of our focus on the environment, we are going to go back to 1850 and start using those wooden rigs, and that's going to start damaging the environment even worse, because our world, and we use pretty much oil for everything. We use it for jobs. Yeah, jobs. If you want.
Okay, so now we're going to move into the crossfire. So now you guys are going to have 3 minutes to. So you guys can go ahead. Whoever wants to get started with the question, we'll start the time then.
Just don't ask me.
Okay. You guys never mentioned how much you wanted to invest, so does that mean throwing away the entire economy so we can invest in the environment alone? Because that would destroy the GDP of the U.S. completely. That would cause inflation to just
Well, we never said anything about throwing the economy away, and we actually agree with many of your points that the economy and the environment can go hand in hand, but we probably just disagree about how to get there. We believe in investing in solar panels and wind turbines and hydroelectric power and other renewable sources of energy to transition out of and eventually phase out fossil fuels like oil, coal, and natural gas. No, we're not saying it should happen overnight, but we're saying that we should start the process of phasing out the fossil fuels that emit CO2 into the atmosphere and eventually get to the point where we're at 100% renewable energy. Once again, not overnight, but by around 2050.
See, I think to do that, though, you need a strong economy. You need jobs. You need money to invest in those things, right? Why are we so advanced over third world countries? Because they don't have a strong economy, right? So they're way behind us in all their technology. Not to mention, we can't control the weather. When natural disasters happen, the reason that we're able to bounce back is because we have a strong economy to put resources down there to take care of things, clean it up and get it back to work. You're talking about New Orleans and getting visitors and stuff. Pretty sure if we didn't have a good economy and the resources and tools, like New Orleans would still be underwater. It's a bowl, right? It'd still be flooded, and then that would just be a swampland. We wouldn't be able to use it for anything to grow our GDP and for visitors come to make bad decisions on Bourbon Street. They're not gonna be able to do any of that because it's underwater. So we can't control the weather. I think just honestly, weather is gonna happen, and it's been happening since the dawn of time, right? Sorry.
This is for questions.
My bad. That was my question. So.
Okay, so I hear like y'all's one of y'all's main points was climate change, and maybe I just missed it, but what is y'all's are y'all's solutions that are y'all wanting to, if as we are wanting to focus on improvements in technology or the GMOs or
Well,
a wide
a lot of that is mentioned in our next speaker.
Okay.
So we
Oh,
haven't
don't-
talked about
okay.
it, but we do have all of that covered. But two of your speakers have mentioned how the economy would collapse and it would be irreversible. I know one of you used the word irreversible, like environmental damage. Is there a time in the United States history that has happened that we haven't been able to bounce back?
I don't know a specific time on top of my hand, or on top of my.
I mean, I'll say it's a great question, but I'm pretty sure they weren't worried about the environment. The environment's a necessity, or I'm sorry, a luxury.
Nice work, nice work. So that was going to be the last crossfire.
Right.
So now we're going to move into the summary speakers. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the affirmative.
I have a question. Are we not doing part 3 and part 4, or just this is the last bit?
This is part 3.
No, this is part 3, and then you guys have part 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's no crossfire between 3 and 4.
Right.
So can part 3 add more points?
So part 3 you can't bring up new research, but you can it's kind of like your summary. So the third is summary. So this is where you guys are pretty little bow. This is my argument. This is my case. This is what we said. Rebuttal and everything. So this is what you said in your rebuttal. This is your whole case with a pretty bow on it. You're summarizing everything that you guys kind of stand for. So I know that you guys are the first ones going today, so basically what my suggestion would be to look at the notes that you've been taking to summarize. Okay. All right, so Jacqueline, whenever you're ready. You ready, Jacqueline? If you need a minute.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah, go for it.
You got this.
It's all good vibes here. We're all family.
Although President Trump has time and time again tried to stress the necessity and importance of coal jobs, according to a Washington Post article titled "The Entire Coal Industry Employs Fewer People Than Arby's," the U.S. only employs about 76,000 coal workers. Used car dealerships have about 138,000 employees. In 2017, the U.S. Department of Energy report on jobs in the economy found that 6.4 million Americans work in the energy sector. They stated that wind power technician was the fastest growing job in the country. According to the blog, The Intelligent Economist, human capital and technology are 2 of the 6 top factors that affect economic growth. A skilled labor force has a significant effect on growth since skilled workers are more productive. Technology could increase productivity with the same levels of labor, thus accelerating growth and development. An unmanned windmill is cheaper, safer, and better for the environment than a coal mine with a 30-year employee on Medicaid dying of lung cancer from a truck on gasoline. So there is in fact job growth within the clean technology field. And according to the article, Auto Manufacturing Help Drive Clean Energy Job Growth in the Midwest from energynews.us, quote, a 2018 report showed Ohio, in particular, could net $13.8 billion in new investment by boosting renewable energy supply chains and electric vehicle production, end quote. This means that the clean technology field is beneficial to our government's economy. It creates jobs and produces revenue for our government. Michaela Fresco, a Midwest advocate for environmental entrepreneurs, points out how, quote, we're seeing significant increases in consumer demand for electric vehicles that are leading to job growth, end quote. So what this means is that more and more often, as time goes by, we'll see more electric cars on highways, and that would mean less pollution in the air, which would then go back to one of Stephanie's points, where air pollution would affect people with asthma, and they could continue to go to school and work without having to call in. And then big business economy will fail our agriculture system, health system, and climate change if no legislation is made. And according to the New York Times Post or article, U.S. climate report warns of damaged environment and shrinking economy. Quote, all told, the report says, climate change could slash up to 1/10 of gross domestic product by 2100, more than double the losses of the Great Recession a decade ago, end quote. With the way the economy fluctuates from year to year, this consequence will have more of an impact on our environment than some are willing to consider. And if there is no action taken, climate change won't benefit our economy. So, in other words, if we don't regulate climate change, if we don't take action now, then this could have more of an impact on our economy. So then without an environment, there is no economy. And within the same post by the New York Times, quote, the report puts the most precise price tags to date on the cost to the United States economy and projected climate impacts. $141 billion from heat-related deaths, $118 billion from sea level rise, and $32 billion from infrastructure damage by the end of the century, among others, end quote. If we don't take care of our environment, then our environment will no longer sustain our population. So if we don't take measures to get our environment growing again, we won't be here. Our grandkids will have to figure this out. And lastly, jobs in clean energy are growing at an exponentially faster rate than those in coal mining related jobs. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook, the top 2 projected fastest growing careers for between 2016 and 2026 are solar photovoltaic installers at 105% job growth and wind turbine service technicians at 96% job growth. While on the other hand, mining and geological engineers have a projected job growth of 8% between 2016 and 2026. So if President Trump is trying to regulate the economy and say, get more coal workers back into jobs, but according to the statistics, more jobs are being created in the energy field.
Awesome, thank you, Jacqueline. All right, Sean, if you're ready.
All right, I'm glad that we agree on pushing for environmental technologies while boosting our economy and protecting the environment. I would also like to bring up that many businesses are already doing that. And in fact, there's hundreds of businesses including IKEA, Starbucks, Panasonic, Walmart, Apple, Chipotle, Hyundai. There's hundreds of businesses already working on green and like protecting the environment, like more green deals and more, not necessarily green deals, we're pushing for more health, like environmentally healthier uses for their technologies. I also wanted to bring up, using research from my colleagues, that you mentioned that fossil fuels needed to go away, that it needs to completely turn into solar and wind turbines, technologies to protect the environment, which you don't understand that our fossil fuels are also vital for the production of electricity, including farmers producing that rely on the fossil fuels to create food. Their equipment, also including the tractors, mining harvesters, run all on fossil fuels, derivatives, and including transportation for those foods, including planes, trains, cars, so on and so forth. What else? Oh yes. Land use today is also about 40% of the Earth is farmed. Farming and land will overshoot the preliminary estate of the safe operating space of all 6.3 million square miles by 2050. So there's already plenty of work being done in trying to benefit the environment while also keeping it under wraps in our economy. I'd also like to mention that investing in the environment also includes that it would hurt if you wanted to invest more into the environment as it is right now. That would actually almost hurt our economy in a source that we have to keep it under a certain limit. If we are to go above and beyond Call of Duty, we'd end up creating inflation and causing the value of the dollar to deplete outrageously. Because countries like Venezuela are horribly inflated right now, causing people to go hungry, there's no medicine there, and also killing the environment entirely. So, in the progress that we are boosting our economy, keeping it under certain limits, we will slowly also protect the environment and move towards strides in overall benefiting the world. What else? Also, imagine you're drilling a hole in your backyard and you haven't had much luck, so you try to dig in several places in your backyard for oil, but nothing's coming out. You ended up wasting your time and energy. And money for that matter. The advancements of technology and equipment is to reduce possibilities of these problems occurring right now. What I'm saying is that we do have to keep our oil around so that we can boost our economy to later protect the environment. There is no way around it for the time being, although we would like to create a total environmentally friendly with 100% of wind turbines and solar powered businesses. That's not an option for us right now. It'll take much more time for any of that to come in. I would also like to bring up that Lester Brown, which is the U.S. Environmental Analysis, founder of World Watch Institute, and founder and former president of Earth Policy Institute. You're fine. Has 30 years dedicated of researching and communicating major trends in the world's use of resources and the health of our ecosystem in the state of our society. Understand that our economic system and population growth are incompatible with natural system functions. Pretty positive.
All right, thank you, Sean. So now what we're moving on to is the final focus. So this is going to be the 4 speakers, so we're going to go ahead and get started with Stephanie. So just whenever you're ready, go ahead.
In conclusion, environmental protection is part of economic growth. Valuing environmental protection over the economy will lead to saving what's left of the planet and actually saving parts of our economy from going in decline. If you think addressing climate change would be harmful to the economy, understand that the economic consequences of not addressing climate change will be significantly worse. Big business economy will fail our agriculture system, health system, and climate change if no legislation is made. A larger market for clean technologies will reduce the cost of producing the required equipment and thus the admin measures. Countries that move first expand their possibilities for a growing clean tech industry. So it'll be pricey today, but it'll be cheaper by the dozen as we go and safer. Quantity is what kills and lowers prices regarding to cleaner technology. You can have a substantial economy while also being eco-friendly and using renewable energy. In the long run, environmental policy will favor the economy as it stimulates more efficient use of resources, and the health benefits would increase GDP by 10%.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so Keith, go ahead and close us out.
Can I bring it home?
Bring it home.
Awesome. Well, I did just want to open up and say, shout out to Dr. Lane and all the TAs for picking we're scheduled to debate on the perfect date, April 25th, because it's not too hot and it's not too cold. You just need a light jacket. Thanks for laughing, appreciate that. I did want to start by just saying that there is a wide range of research and data available to the public with the growing concern with climate change and global warming. Of those growing concerns, most people have a certain bias to one side, usually sways their opinion into said issue, which is probably a problem because it can skew the importance and significance of the raw data and what is shown to the public for them to make their choices and decisions on how they want to spend their money in the economy, vote for which party, those sort of things. That's why it's important to have a clear view on the issue and give the best input about the issue regardless of any biases. As stated in an article in our research, the author feels that having biased opinions can ruin important results on important issues. Quoting, bias is another reason for disagreement among scientists and other writers on climate change. Scientists, no less than other human beings, bring their personal beliefs and interests to their work, sometimes make decisions based on that direct their attention away from research findings that would contradict their opinions. Bias is often unconcise or overcome by professional ethics, but sometimes it leads to outright corruption, right? They got their hand in somebody's pocket and they need a certain pull, they're gonna be like, yeah man, like, this lake rose by, 2 inches because it's hot outside, but well, it also rained. So just you gotta look at those things and make sure that you're looking at it from the right angle and that you don't have somebody that's benefiting from skewing their research. So it just shows important how it's not only to be correct in your findings, but also not feed biased data and opinions to the public and to benefit your agenda. And also with news articles and social media these days, a lot of people just want to be first. They don't want to be right. They just want to put it out there and let people run with it. And that's an issue that we have today. Moving on. Through time, some people have questioned the way we run our economic system. Should it be capitalistic? Should it be socialist? Should it be, what have you? And just recently, the Green New Deal has been proposed and as a solution for economic growth and environmental problems. Through our economy has only been around for a short time. The study of the world history has shown that the ideology of capitalism has shown to be the most effective. Just look at China, Russia. They just basically tell you what you're going to do, how much it's going to cost. It takes forever to get a car. I like to go to a car dealership right now and buy the best badass car because capitalism. So there are certain groups that believe capitalism is the root cause of effects on the environment and that we should move away from an economy built on capitalism. One author disagrees by saying a more realistic account is less sinister. Ideology is a tool people use to make sense of the world presented with gigantic problem like a climate change. People who believe capitalism is the root of all problems will naturally and earnestly gravitate towards social solutions that require dismantling capitalism. Basically, some people believe that by drastically changing the way we structure our economic system, we'll have a turn for the better for the environment, which I just disagree with, our team disagrees with, and I feel like everybody does. May not have all the answers to a perfect economy, right? We're growing, we're learning, we're trying to get new windmills and things, maybe one day get cars off the road that are ran on gasoline, that's down on the road, and we need the economy now to propel us that in the future. It's not a put a Band-Aid on it and rip it off moment. We need to plan it out and work it to one day, we'll be like the Jetsons flying around in our little spaceships, would be great. So basically summarize the overall significance of economic growth. We need to continue to use every bit of our resources to help better generate and increase capital gains for our economy. With us doing that, we'll be able to create new technology for refining Earth's fossil fuels, where we find new ways to better grow GMO and organic crops, and better support our agricultural systems. I just wanted to throw in a quote. The late great Ronald Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." So we need to use the resources and the tools that we have now to keep our economy going, to propel us into the future. And to close out, you can have economic growth without environmental protection, but you cannot have environmental protection without economic growth.
Awesome, thank you guys. So I'm gonna have you guys talk amongst yourselves for a minute, and I'm gonna talk.
A round of applause for our
Thank you guys. Oh yeah, that's fine. I'll let you guys know who won later.
I just want to know what I made on my grade.
Yeah, that's gonna take a minute.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Great job, you were the first one, so.
Keith, I give you
For the what? Oh, thank you very much. It helps me speak better.
great attention.
Appreciate it.
Awesome, group references are good.
Thank you.
Did you he said that earlier, and I go, well, no one's gonna get that.
Plain strings on the bills?
No, the one where he said the jacket.
Oh, yeah, I'll use life jacket.
Yeah, see, he said that earlier. I was like, no one's gonna get it.
They did Cheaper by the Dozen, you guys did Jetsons, and then one of you guys did Plain Strings on the bills. I think it was y'all.